everybody. Welcome to today's special webinar. My name is Tran Mendez, and I'm an academic trainer with the Center for Teaching and Learning. And today we have Dr. Heather Miller here, and she is going to be discussing ideas for collecting data and research feasibility during the coronavirus. So along the way, if you have questions, please utilize the Q&A box. I am currently recording today's session, and I will have it posted in the comments by tomorrow evening. And I will also have Dr. Miller's PowerPoint presentation posted there as well. So without further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Miller.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm going to go ahead and take off my video so that we can focus on the content. I understand that many of you are going to be in the middle of data collection. You're about to start your research. You are going to submit to the IRB. And I'm here to help you navigate next steps from our point of view. I want you to know that in this really trying time that we're going to do our best to support you, and that we're going to figure out a way for you to keep moving forward. So I have some avenues that we can go ahead and we're going to give it a shot. So first and foremost, as we are in these trying times, please be sure that you're following all CDC and WHO guidelines. And what that means is now we are going to have to all switch to activities that were once face-to-face. They're now going to have to become remote. So of course, we all know that. Maybe a week ago we weren't quite sure, but now we know that that's the case, at least for the near future and possibly for a bit longer. So if you already have an approved IRB application, and your IRB application says that you were going to interview participants, or you were going to be in a focus group, or you were going to go to a conference room, or you were going to be at a library or at a school, all of that will now move to a remote activity. So with that said, you will have to update your informed consent as applicable, and that's just a line. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to be interviewing, at such and such a place, you'll just say, I'm going to be interviewing using, a remote site. And your recruitment, and we're going to talk a little bit more about recruitment depending upon what you have a site doing for you. So are you going to have a site that you already had a plan with, and they were going to disperse an email or hang up a flyer, or were they going to somehow announce your research in some sort of meeting? If that's the case, we'll talk a little bit about moving your recruitment to social media. So please keep your faculty chair updated with what your plans are as you move forward, so that they can also support you in this process. Okay, so I want to talk a tiny bit about recruitment. There are a couple of kinds of recruitment. There's something called passive recruitment, and that's what we're going to really focus on in this webinar. Passive recruitment is when, you can kind of imagine if you're scrolling through on something on your Facebook page or your LinkedIn or your Instagram, and you pass by it. Like if you were walking around and, we were all out and about, and you walked by a bulletin board at a Starbucks or Panera Bread, and you pass by something. That's called passive recruitment. It means that people will be able to look at your information for your study, and they can decide whether or not to continue to participate in your study. So there's lots of different ways to move your information that was once going to be at a site, to adjust it so that you can now passively recruit participants. I'm just thinking about the ones I've seen in just the last 24 hours that I've seen personally. Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. I've seen flyers on all of these things. Facebook groups within my neighborhood have different types of activities going on that you can participate in an online environment. And this might be a great way for you to consider moving forward, because that way you can keep going forward regardless of the current circumstances. But that leads me to thinking about your eligibility criteria. So eligibility criteria mean who is eligible to be in your study. So let me give you an example. Let's pretend that earlier you were going to be working with a a school site. And that school site was going to recruit teachers for you or staff. Well, now you might need teachers from a particular district. So I live outside of Seattle, and the school district near me is called Issaquah School District. So let's say before all of this happened, I was going to use one of the high schools within Issaquah School District. But now I'm going to have very clear eligibility criteria. So again, when somebody's scrolling by, say, a Facebook post, they know whether or not they could be in your study. So before, maybe where you had participants that were going to come to you through a staff meeting, or a site was going to send something out, or managers were going to send information out, now you're just going to need to make it more clear so that somebody would understand who can participate in your study. So for example, let's pretend I wanted to talk with math teachers from Issaquah School District who've been teaching there for at least 5 years. And as long as I have a very clear list of who I want to be in my study, you can take that list and put it into a social media or an online environment. And that way, the participants would know whether or not they can be in the study, because your eligibility criteria would be so clear, they would have no doubt that, in fact, yep, I know I can be in the study. So while your IRB application might have been done a little differently, now under the new circumstances, if you want to further clarify so that your criteria are more clear to whoever you might want to be in your study, you can go ahead and do that. Again, you do not need to put in a modification to an existing application. You can just update your materials to reflect your participants so that you can continue collecting data. Please be sure, as I keep saying, and I'll continue to say this, to make sure that you're checking in with your faculty chair so that you're all on the same page. So you were collecting, let's say you were half and half. So maybe half of your information, a month ago you were collecting data face-to-face, and now all of a sudden you got to switch and you have to move on to some sort of interface. And there are many interfaces that would work for this. Of course, just the good old-fashioned telephone, Zoom, FaceTime, Teams within Microsoft, Google Hangout. All of these things you can go ahead and switch to for your interviews or your focus groups without putting in a modification. Again, if you're midstream, you can update your informed consent if it's applicable, and you can update your recruitment information if necessary. In some cases, some of you might have already had participants in the pipeline, but due to scheduling conflicts or whatever, you weren't able to meet with them. Well, you can reach out to them now again and go ahead and continue if they're willing to in an online environment. No modification is necessary. You don't need to resubmit anything back to us. You can go ahead and make this common sense change. So let's also think of a few other things that you might consider depending upon the type of data you were going to collect. If you were collecting data in some sort of survey format, like you were either a pen and paper survey where you were going to give something to a group of people, you can switch that. We have licenses for Qualtrics where you can deploy your survey instrument now using Qualtrics. But you can also consider, and again, please double check with your faculty chair, you can also consider paying a service. So there are these services. So Qualtrics and SurveyMonkey, for example, they both function as an app that you can deploy, so you can send it out to get your information. You can post that in LinkedIn, you could post it on Facebook, or you can pay these companies and they send it out to eligible participants that meet all of your criteria. And the way it works is that depending upon the criteria of the participants that you need, they may charge you more or less. So from my experiences, what I've learned is that the more narrow the group, like let's say you wanted to get pilots of 747s, the more expensive it is for using this particular part of their service. In some cases, For example, one of my own students used a company called Prolific. Prolific was able to get the entire sample that he needed in about 45 minutes, and it was about $700, and it met all of the criteria. And he felt it was worth it. But it's worth looking into just to double check to see if it's an avenue that you want to go. Or maybe you've already got a lot of data, but you just need a little bit more, or your committee wants you to have a little bit more. Maybe you ask one of these services just to get a little bit more. So it's worth sitting down and doing a little digging. MTurk is one of the companies that's a division of Amazon, and they also will find participants for you, and you'll deploy your information on either using Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey. So MTurk is like a big place where they get people to answer your questions, but you have to set up how you want your questions answered, depending upon what app that you choose. So they're really great ways to go ahead and increase your participant pool in a very timely manner. All right, so I'm going to just quick look. I'm going to quick look at a question so I can answer it right now, because I know I just gave you a lot of information. You have different ways that you can recruit, and you have different possibilities for gathering your information. So the question says, for recruiting, instead of emails and getting site permissions, can we have this set as online, post in LinkedIn, so our criteria would request that they reach out to me, then I would just need to do a consent form. Great job, Misty Jean. Nice to see you as well. So yes, in short, let's pretend that you were going to get site permission. You were trying to get site permission at a particular place, and that site was going to do work for you somehow. And when I say work, I use it in a loose term, meaning they were going to send something out, you were going to go through them in some way, you were going to sit down in chairs owned by that site. Somehow the site was going to support your research. But now you no longer have access to that site. So now you can include that as part of your eligibility criteria. Like I gave him the example. For example, if I was going to be working with Issaquah School District before all of this happened, and the principal was going to send my information out to teachers on my behalf, but now I can't do that, I can simply recruit teachers that have all of the criteria. So now instead of just, I wouldn't have had to say, hey, are you an Issaquah school? Because clearly they would have been, because that's where the note was coming from. But now I can just include that as part of my criteria. And the way I like to think about these eligibility criteria is that it's so clear that you could look at it and you would know, yep, I'm able to go ahead and participate in this research just by reading these bulleted lists. I live in Issaquah School District, I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching here for over 5 years. Boom, I qualify. So the more criteria you have, the clearer it is to the participant. And I just want to also add that your criteria will reflect what you need to do to have the correct participants to answer your research questions. So, and when you're thinking about that, that's just one way to consider changing your recruitment strategy. Again, these companies, Qualtrics, Prolific, MTurk, and SurveyMonkey, are all excellent options as well to think about if you want to actually pay a company to support you. Okay, so Misty Jean's asking another question. Would we just have a site name as LinkedIn? So you don't actually have a site. That's a great question. Thank you. So a site is a way to think about some place that's going to do something for you. Like a school district is going to do something for you. A business is going to do something for you. A hospital is going to, staff member is going to do something for you. What a passive recruitment means is that you're not asking a site to do anything for you. So in the instances that I'm giving you in switching to social media, you're not asking anybody to do anything. You're going to run it yourself. You're going to post your flyer on LinkedIn. You're going to Snapchat your flyer to people who might be interested. You're going to put it on your Facebook post and say, please share. And you're going to have all the criteria, and then the participants would come to you. So in your criteria, it might be willing to interview one-to-one over the phone or on Zoom. Or maybe your criteria are willing to participate in a survey that will take you 10 minutes. Whatever your criteria are, again, you just make it clear enough so that the people would know what to do next. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more, just in case you're curious about these third-party data collection folks. Again, Qualtrics and SurveyMonkey can both collect data for you. Qualtrics, in fact, depending upon your criteria and depending upon the participants that you need, they actually have an entire place where you can go ahead and collect data from qualitative data. They'll actually get participants for you that will meet your requirements, and you can interview them even. So again, these are all paid services. I haven't, it depends upon the type of participants that you need, but it's worth a quick check to see if it would be a way, in addition to, I like always having, I'm one of those backup plan people. So if I was in the midst of data collection right now, I would be advertising passively using the, all of the social media that I possibly could in my community with clear criteria. And then while all of that was going on, I would also think about contacting one of these third-party data collection sources. I would also consider thinking about incentives, because even a small token, like an incentive, can really promote people to participate in a timely manner. So those are some things that I would consider. Okay, are there any questions so far about what I have reviewed before we get into those first meetings that you might have? And I bring in our guest speaker, which is Angie Pacheco, who is an amazing IT person. Are there any questions right now that I can help answer regarding your IRB situation?
We had a question come through. When you say site, as in physical space, you are distinguishing that from website like LinkedIn, correct?
Correct, absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question.
And then site name is
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There was another one in the Q&A box. Site name is required through. Right. And wants us to upload a file.
So Misty Jean has caught something that we have in our application system, is that we're asking for a site name. And sometimes the IRB manager will get hung up. So if it says site name and you're doing a passive recruitment strategy like social media, either choose either to put social media or passive. And if our system is forcing you to upload a document, you can upload the recruitment flyer there, or you can upload a blank document that says placeholder, like, so we can acknowledge it. Because I do understand that in this time, it might be not as conducive as we would like, but our system, it's easier for you to force yourself through the system by uploading a document that says, I'm switching to passive recruitment, I'm not using my site, I went to the webinar, and then the reviewer will go, oh, okay, I got it. Than it is to try to navigate the system, if that makes any sense. So yeah, you can go ahead and feel free to do that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring Angie in. Angie, are you there? Can you hear me? Breaker.
Okay, breaker, I'm here, thank you.
All right, so the first thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit was using Zoom, and I wanted to bring Angie in because when I use Zoom, I like to first put myself in a very calm place. And I thought I would show you guys like a little kind of quick entertainment break while Angie gets geared up to talk about a little bit about Zoom. My name is Heather again, and these are my dogs. From left to right is Dessa, Happy, and our new addition to the family, Enzo, who looks like a Muppet. And when I'm using the technology, I have to prepare myself. And so Angie is a wizard at all things to do with technology. And Angie, I just wondered what would your recommendations be if for two things. One, for me, if I was a student and I wasn't a real savvy user of an online web-based system like Zoom, what would be some tips that you have right off the bat for me?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is signing up for a Zoom account, which Zoom has free accounts that have a ton of capabilities. So for example, if it's a one-on-one meeting, it is unlimited. You can have 3 or more attendees, and it kind of caps at 40 minutes, but there's a lot of capabilities. So I would sign up for a Zoom account, and they have the opportunity to join a test meeting. So you can join this test meeting, which will allow you to test your speakers, your microphone, and your webcam prior to doing anything else. You can get familiar with how it looks and feels and kind of get those initial nerves out of the way.
So it's a test meeting. And are you familiar with test meetings with other interfaces, or do you recommend that students who need to collect data go through Zoom? What are your thoughts on that?
My experience has been that Zoom has been the most stable, but there are a lot of there's a lot of tools out there. There's GoToMeeting, there's an Adobe Meet, there's I think something called Blue Jeans, but what I have found is that Zoom has been the most stable and frankly one of the easiest to navigate. It's really pretty easy, which makes it nice for me personally.
Yeah, excellent. Because we're all looking for something easy right now, so I appreciate that. So again, a Zoom account, you can have up to 40 minutes for your interviews, and you can also create a test environment for yourself after you set up. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And the 40 minutes is only if you have 3 or more participants. If you're one-on-one, it is unlimited.
Wow. Okay. So one-on-one, unlimited. And what about recording that information? Is that a possibility, or is that something that you can record on your mobile device?
You can record through the Zoom client. You have the opportunity to record it to your local computer or cloud recording, and it is with no matter how many attendees. So even if it capped at 40, it would record all the way to the 40. And it would give all participants a little notification that it says it's recording, so you can ensure that everyone is aware that it's recording.
Oh, that's important too. People
Yes.
like to know whether or not they're being recorded. And I know that with our experts like Tran, she always announces that they're going to be recorded, but just in case you forget, that's an important detail, especially for research, so you can record it.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit, Angie, about the HIPAA Zoom accounts?
The HIPAA Zoom accounts are a little bit different. They do not allow any cloud recording. It is only through to your local device because of the requirements they have around the data storage. That is the biggest limitation. And I do know that Zoom is the only product that does provide the HIPAA certified backup or whatever that is, but they're the only ones that say that they are HIPAA compliant.
Excellent. So in case you were working with participants and it should be protected information, you can still do that. You could take notes just like you normally would, except that you would take notes and you wouldn't be able to record it. So that's an excellent option. Yes. So with that, I wanted to piggyback on that with a few things here that I recommend as you move forward. And thank you, Angie. And I realize I'll have another space if we can. We'll see if there's additional things. But I would recommend that if you were midway through with your data collection, you probably just want to notify your participants that the research is still going. You're just switching to an online or some sort of remote type venue. And like Angie said, there are test environments. And I don't know about you guys, but I have friends that are home right now and they're dying to talk online. So you might find somebody as well. And I just want to, as an online faculty member, one thing that you might want to do is go ahead and make sure to see what your background is and how you appear on the camera. It can be pretty distracting. I've been in meetings before where with other faculty where there are like particular ones that kind of like come to know our Christmas trees in the background, like they're in their living room and the Christmas tree is flashing. Feel like I'm in the middle of a traffic stop because how it's perceived on the camera. And then another little tip and trick is that I always raise up my laptop camera so my camera is a little bit higher, so it's not like you're looking straight up. I find that to be a little bit easier for me to actually look into the camera as well when I'm delivering a webinar like this, and it makes it easier for people to see me instead of like the top of my head. So you might want to play around with that a little bit. And then if you are recording, and of course there's some great interfaces to get your data transcribed, like rev.com, trent.com, Transcription Puppy, and of course you might have apps as well. There are some, great ways to get your information transcribed quickly, and you can use, if you have a smartphone or a computer, you can also record using voice memos right off of your phone and the recording feature as well. So I've had a lot of students, and I've done it myself for my own research, and then I've been able to send those recordings straight to one of those companies, and they transcribe it in an hour, and I have back my data lickety split. So, and so Brenda's asking, once you use Zoom interview, how would you transcribe that information on rev.com? So that is not a service that we provide as an institution. That's one that I've used personally. I can tell you from my experiences doing my own research that both rev.com is excellent. They're not cheap, but they're so fast and precise that when the data comes back, it's almost 100%. So last time I looked, they were about $1 a minute. But I think it might depend on how many minutes you do, and you can sign up for programs, and they even have an app you can put on your phone. You can record it, and then you send it right to them, or you can send them the Zoom link, and they can transcribe it. Trent, T-R-I-N-T, Trent with a T, is also, I've had several students, they're kind of up and coming. I've noticed them really come up to life in the last 6 months. Trent.com is much more economical than Rev. I have to say I'm not 100% sure on how their accuracy is compared to Rev. But you know what? If you have some time and you can re-listen to yourself at a faster rate, you might give it a shot. But they're both great. There's also Transcription Puppy. I have seen that one used, and of course I like it because clearly I love dogs. That's another one that you might go ahead and consider as well. And thank you, Rhonda, for posting those questions / answers, Trent and Rev. Okay, I'm going to one more slide, and I meant to have this one earlier, but Angie, is there anything else that you can think of from your end that would be, anything else? So get your account, sign up. I wrote down some notes. Make sure that you test it. Any other last minute tech?
Just want to throw it out there that you don't have to be stressed about whoever you're trying to interview having a computer or having the equipment, because they can attend the Zoom from their phone or their tablet. They can they download the app, and it is the same interaction. So they don't have to have a special setup. You don't have to have a special setup. You can just use your phone so that you can get the video and audio capabilities.
Oh, so you can do it. So even, okay, so the participants can just do it from their phone. They can just call in.
Yep, absolutely. And if it was a one-to-one, even if they are the participant on their smartphone, they can enable the camera, so they can do, the semi face-to-face from their smartphone.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
The other thing that I highly suggest is if you are not speaking, if you've asked something and the other person is going to speak, mute your microphone, because sometimes if they have their external speaker, then you might get feedback. If there's any type of background noise, you might get some of that kind of crossing over. So you want to mute if you're not speaking, just to eliminate that problem, because it does happen.
I just unmuted. I was exactly. I know it's sometimes, and I think too, one thing to remember too, as a novice researcher, you might be like, yeah, we know we should mute or we should not mute. But when you're in the midst of collecting your data for your actual study, that sometimes making a little list of these tips and tricks can be helpful, just to kind of keep your head in the game, because it's pretty exciting, and it might be different from what you originally planned, and so just making sure you go through that, and that's a great piece of advice as well. All right, well then I'm going to go to our next slide. Is that we have we're going to have a place in the Commons set up shortly to help you with IRB questions. We're going to have open office hours every week, and they're going to be, you'll be able to find the advertisement on our website. I put our website up here. Again, this PowerPoint will be posted. You can email irb@ncu.edu, and we're going to be happy to answer your questions. If you have a particular question for me, Heather, you can say, hey, Heather, there's a couple folks that man that inbox, but you can just say, this is for Heather, and then they'll know it's me. I want to just go ahead and stress again that NCU has really put out some great resources for you regarding coronavirus, and I highly recommend that you check it out. The president and the provost are very, very passionate about making sure that we can all support you the best possible way, in all of the leadership, from the top down, the deans, the associate provosts, the assistant deans. I just want you to know that we're all here to help you as we, get through these trying times, and the IRB is included on that list. And then finally, just one more time, I wanted to let you guys know that there are no modifications for existing applications that are necessary until further notice. And so we'll keep information as we get it posted on our website. And clearly, if a site opened up and you need to make some changes, just come to the IRB so that we can support you and moving forward. I will also have a few more links for you guys to look at regarding doing research at this time. There's a lot of guidance that's coming out from universities. The federal guidance is coming out in terms of protecting human participants, and I will have that link for you when you get a hold of this PowerPoint. And I just want to thank you guys. This is also going to be on the link. My name again is Heather. And you guys can also, if you have a direct question or something that I can help you with directly, I'm happy to. We'll have the office hours, but I will also provide you with a direct link where you can schedule a one-to-one appointment with me. You can email, and this is my phone number, and my phone is sitting right here. I'm a mad texter, and if there was something that I could help you with during this trying time, if I can answer it, I will, and if I can't, I won't. I'll tell you all right now, I do not answer voicemails, but I do answer text messages. And I just want you guys to know that I can help brainstorm. I can help make your study come to a place that offers you some relief, and we can talk about feasibility and think of ways for you to go ahead and collect your data. I just want you to know that I understand that in this trying time, that with all the momentum that you have behind you, that it might seem, it's overwhelming. But I know that there's always a way to figure out how to collect data, and we'll be able to figure out a way. And frankly, I think right now with a lot of folks home and homebound, I think frankly that, if somebody called me and wanted me to be in a research study, and I was able to tell my kids and my husband, I'm so sorry, I need to help out this research study, I'm going to hide in my closet and do that, I would welcome it. So if anybody is doing a research study on online IRB directors, by all means, you have a participant. So I just want to thank everybody so much again, and thank you so much, Angie, for taking your time and putting, helping us think of those tips and tricks. Thank you so much for Tran Mendez for pulling this together and working with us in the Center of Teaching and Learning last minute. I'm very, very grateful. And again, just please let me know personally if I can help you. I will be happy to brainstorm and think of ways that you can continue moving forward with your data collection. Any other comments?
We have a comment. Eric says, not a question, but a comment. Thank you for putting this information out there. It certainly helps. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to put this out there. For everybody that attended, thank you so much for being here with us this evening. I know it's getting pretty late across both coasts, but I will have this recording posted in the comments by tomorrow evening. And we look forward to helping you through this process. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you again, Dr. Miller, and thank you again, Angie. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.